Hello ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Jim Makes a Cartoon. I'm Jim, and I'm making a cartoon. This week, I'm working on the last few steps of the latest episode of Dictator Cat. Links are in the usual places, and since there's not going to be a cartoon this month, I'm going to have to dig into the archives of some unused footage for my blogs for the next few weeks. So this is going to seem pretty mundane, but my wife and I sat down to watch the movie Mean Girls recently, and it still holds up. It's still a really good film. And I thought about how a lot of the people watching here maybe are still in school now, and it really reminded me about how much high school sucks. I know some people love high school, but for me, it was not a very pleasant experience. Who had the bright idea to put a bunch of hormonal teenagers together in one building for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week? Like, you're already having to deal with puberty and all the stuff that goes with that, but now you gotta deal with all the pettiness and nastiness of other people in your school. And a lot of times it seems like the school systems themselves don't know how to handle it. I mean, there's no real guideline on the line between treating these kids like adults or treating them like they're still young children. Because when you're a teenager, you're testing your boundaries without any forethought. There's no thought of what the consequences might be of your actions. Now, I know there are a lot of responsible teens out there, but come on, you know what I'm talking about. Like, being an adult is a lot harder than being a teenager in a lot of ways, but I would never go back to that. So I bring this up not because I just want to trash high schoolers and the high school experience. I'm bringing it up because of what I've come to realize over the past few years. There's this expectation that once you reach a certain year, maybe it's 30, maybe it's 25, something like that, all of a sudden everybody's going to be mature and classy and honest and straightforward, but that really doesn't happen. I mentioned last week that I went to Dragon Con with my brother, and in one of the panels we attended, one of the panelists was talking about the cattiness and clickiness of the film industry, and mentioned that it is a lot like high school with a lot of backstabbing and gossiping behind people's backs and so forth. And then he thought about it for a moment and said, you know what, pretty much all of life is like that. Life is basically a series of high schools. We all pretend to be mature, but we all have a tendency towards pettiness and immaturity. Nowhere is this more apparent in an election year. I mean, each election cycle seems nastier than the next. Combined with the social media echo chambers that we've discussed in previous blogs, it feels like many of us are getting more and more entrenched in our own personal beliefs rather than expanding our viewpoints, which is really what the internet and social media were supposed to be doing. There are all these conspiracy theories that are floating around the major presidential candidates, and each of their oppositions are just totally eager to believe them. Like, if you see something bad about the opposing party, everyone on your side just jumps to believe it without question. And if somebody disagrees, there's no civil debate, it's just people throwing insults at each other or pointing blame at the other guy. There are people who are genuinely losing friendships over this election. By the way, speaking of that, nobody's allowed to actually talk about the candidates in the comment section. If you see something about a candidate or their supporters, I'm deleting that comment immediately. I do not want to start a flame war here. This is a place for positive vibes, not negative vibes. Which is why I want to bring this around to something that I feel is very important. There are better things to be concerned about when picking out your social circle than their political views, or their religious views, or anything of that nature. What is important is that you all share mutual respect and similar values. Like, if you don't want to be friends with someone, or if you want to gossip about someone simply because of their opinions, and if those opinions do not infringe on the rights of others, then I think you really need to reflect on yourself and your own beliefs. Maybe if we start thinking along those lines, life won't have to be a series of high schools anymore. Alright, one last thing before we go. My wife's birthday is on the 20th, so please wish her a happy birthday in the comments section. I know she'll get a kick out of that. And as always, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share if you haven't already. And I will see all you amazing people next Friday.